Everyone to the WaterSense and Alliance for Water Efficiency Outdoor webinar series. Today we will have presentations on advancing sustainable landscape design. Let's cover a few housekeeping topics before we get started. All attendees were muted when they entered the webinar to minimize background noise. To ask questions, you can type those in the chat box at the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and we will answer those questions at the end of the webinar. This presentation will be posted on the WaterSense website and AWE's YouTube channel following the presentation. Usually it takes 1 to 2 weeks. Before we begin, we'd like to hear from you with a few polls. First, we'd like to ask who we have on the call today. Okay, thank you everyone. Second, we'd like to ask, what part of the country are you calling from? Okay, it's pretty even. And finally, we'd like to ask if you are an irrigation professional. Have you earned a WaterSense labeled certification? Okay, thanks everyone for that information. On our webinar today, we have Carlos Michelon, Principal Water Resources Specialist for the San Diego County Water Authority, Beth Livingston, WaterSense Brand Manager, Peter Mayer, Technical Advisor and Outdoor Water Use Research Project Manager for the Alliance for Water Efficiency. Today's presentation will cover the following topics. San Diego County Water Authority Sustainable Landscapes Program. Carlos will provide a program overview as well as highlights from the San Diego Sustainable Landscape Guidelines. Beth will provide an overview of EPA WaterSense program's resources to promote water-smart landscapes across the country. And Peter will discuss the Alliance for Water Efficiency's new research initiatives to develop more accurate data and information about which programs, practices, and irrigation technologies save the most water. And now I will turn it over to Carlos to the presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending where you are. I'm Carlos Michelon, Principal Water Resources Specialist at the San Diego County Water Authority, where I lead our landscape conservation programs. I want to just verify that I have control of the screen so I can advance, and we'll launch into the presentation. Yes. My talk today is about the San Diego region's Sustainable Landscapes Program. It's a watershed-based approach to integrating water efficiency, stormwater management, and other sustainability principles. First, a few words about my agency. The San Diego County Water Authority is a wholesale water utility that serves 24 member agencies, who in turn support a population of 3.2 million people. The Water Authority imports about 80% of the water that is used in San Diego County. We build, own, and operate water infrastructure, and we are the largest member agency of the Metropolitan Water District. The Sustainable Landscapes Program is made possible by a grant from the Department of Water Resources, which administers Proposition 84 funds. Now, DWR is doing something that I think is brilliant. They're allocating statewide resources to support integrated regional water management programs. And the program I'm going to talk about today, Sustainable Landscapes Program, was funded through the San Diego Regional IRWM program. We received, and why I think that's brilliant is that they allocate their resources on a watershed basis. So our program received a little over $1 million through a Prop 84 grant, and the 6 partners I will introduce in a moment collectively contribute $350,000 in matching funds. So globally, we're operating with a $1.4 million budget. The Sustainable Landscapes partners are the following: the Association of Compost Producers, which is an industry association; the California American Water, that's a privately owned utility servicing Imperial Beach and Coronado, which are in San Diego County but outside of the Water Authority's service territory; the City of San Diego, which is California's 2nd largest city and our largest member agency; the County of San Diego's Watershed Protection Program; the San Diego County Water Authority, which serves as a lead agency for this program; and the Surfrider Foundation, which I understand has over 80 chapters nationwide. Continue explaining the basis for our program. We described it as a program that integrates proven landscape efficiency measures with stormwater management best practices and other sustainability concepts. The basis for this description is that our program charter has 1 foot squarely in on the Model Water Efficient Landscape Ordinance. In California, the design and installation of new landscapes is regulated by the statewide ordinance. Some of the features of the Model Water Efficient Landscape Ordinance include state-of-the-art irrigation, climate-appropriate plants, and a host of other design parameters that revolve around achieving a landscape water budget predetermined by the state. And so our water efficiency methodology is tied to these principles. Likewise, we have another foot firmly planted on the San Diego Regional Water Quality Control Board's municipal stormwater permit. So I want you to think of runoff and stormwater and of all the pollutants that wash off from our urban areas, as well as stormwater management principles. Next slide, please. So now what I want to do is give you first a programmatic overview highlighting some of the different features of our program, and then we'll take a closer look at the guidelines themselves. So as you can see, there's 6 components that begin with articulating a set of standards or guidelines for what we're calling sustainable landscapes, and then pushing that content through education and training coupled with technical assistance. Like any program, there's considerable amount of marketing and outreach. And because of the significance of living soils and the importance of soil amendments and other landscape materials like mulch, there's a task dedicated to promoting greater availability of these resources. And our ultimate objective is to accomplish a limited number of landscape upgrade projects for which we do provide financial incentives. Next slide, please. So as we step back for a moment to contemplate the multiple benefits that are possible through a watershed approach, I think it's fitting in the backdrop we have an image of the San Diego River, kind of the receiving waters for some of this urban runoff that ultimately drains to the ocean. We've already established how our program aims to save water through landscape efficiency measures, how it helps to improve water quality by intercepting some of that runoff and retaining it on site. When you switch to a climate-appropriate plant palette, a Mediterranean plant palette in our case, and you contrast that with the waste stream generated by weekly mowing of cool season turf and conventional lawns, there's a very significant reduction in the amount of green waste produced by these sites, and as well as the emissions that are associated with the mowing and blowing and ultimately transportation, the hauling of that waste product to a landfill where the majority is typically diverted to be composted, but some of it ends up as daily cover in the landfill. In California, it's estimated that about 12% of our state's energy use is related to water. The capture, storage, treatment, distribution, and again, the treatment of wastewaters, all of that adds up to a very significant energy footprint. So there's a very strong water-energy nexus. You save water, you save energy. We've already discussed the Mediterranean plant palette, and in particular, when we use native plants, we're helping to restore some habitat for the local critters. And one of the promises of a sustainable landscape long-term is a relative reduction in the labor inputs, the maintenance that's required over time. No more weekly mowing of the lawn, if you will, although there is still a significant seasonal need for pruning and other sustainable maintenance practices. But we hope that some of those hours that are freed up can be redirected to maintenance practices like more regularly inspecting irrigation systems, replenishing mulch, etc. Next slide, please. So starting with the sustainable landscape guidelines that were developed for San Diego County, some of the things I wanted to share with you is that the 6 program partners collaboratively developed the vision for this document and helped frame ultimately what got published. We want to thank and acknowledge the volunteers who were members of our technical advisory committee. So very important for us to check in with industry, make sure that the content that we developed had the benefit of industry's review and input. And on behalf of the team, I want to acknowledge Pamela Bursler and her team at G3, who did a great job thoroughly researching these guidelines and the underlying regulations that we voluntarily strive to achieve, as well as the loving and painstaking labors of putting together such an attractive document. So in the end, this is how, this publication is available online, and it's designed to empower readers to begin implementing a watershed approach to sustainable landscaping. Next slide. This content is delivered through education and training activities. In the picture, you actually see Pamela on behalf of Surfrider Foundation conducting one of the professional training activities that took place in the city of Oceanside last fall. It's a two-pronged approach. We want to make sure that on the one hand, the professional landscape community is acquainted, and not only acquainted, but proficient with our new standards, so that there's available professional assistance to our participants. Next slide, please. And likewise, we are targeting participation by homeowners. So there's a very robust homeowner education component that is happening concurrently on 2 channels, if you will, through Surfrider Foundation's Ocean Friendly Gardens platform, as well as through the San Diego County Water Authority's Water Smart platform. So I want to really underscore the synergy, the benefits of the partnership that, in this example, effectively enable us to double our bandwidth to increase the capacity of delivering classes throughout our region. Highlighted here for you is the Water Authority's Water Smart Landscape Makeover Series. It is a 4-part award-winning workshop series. Each workshop is about 4 hours long, and at the conclusion of this, the participants who've invested about 16 hours of their time have an actionable plan. It's their responsibility to develop a conceptual plan to upgrade their landscapes. And the program's chock full with hands-on learning activities. Next slide, please. So education goes hand in hand with technical assistance. In this example, you see a qualified professional interfacing with the homeowners, inspecting a landscape site and delivering that technical know-how to help them structure a successful retrofit plan. The program is funding over 200 such technical assistance clinics on site, if you will, for the homeowners, as well as, next slide please. Another method of integrating the technical assistance, this is how the Water Authority does it through its WaterSmart landscape program. It's a twofold approach. We begin by sending qualified professionals out to our participant site. They develop a base plan to scale that maps out the existing turf areas, the irrigation equipment, other site characteristics like slope, and that becomes the canvas on which our participants create their masterpiece, what their WaterSmart landscape will look like. Another component embedded in the workshops I previously described is a 1-hour free professional design consultation. Now our landscape designers, our irrigation designers, our landscape designers are, who are delivering this technical assistance are not designing the entire plan for them. Rather, they're critiquing, strategically improving these plans that are being developed by the homeowners, and it's an invaluable service. Next slide, please. As you would expect, like any program, there's a significant amount of marketing and outreach activities. So whether it's, a lot of it's electronic, web-based. Next slide, please. And now our landscape incentives. I want to just first frame what we're trying to do. We expect to launch, El Nino permitting, our incentive program sometime in May. Our objective is to convert 6¼ acres. Eligible costs run the gamut of plant materials, irrigation components, landscape materials, and of course the any materials associated with the low impact design measures. And there's a number of programmatic controls that are very important to us, such as establishing clear limits on the available incentives per participant. Next slide, please. But I want to step back and acknowledge the work being done by the California Urban Water Conservation Council that focuses on promoting sustainable landscapes as a larger market transformation strategy, and that's exactly what our regional efforts in San Diego are aligned with. We view the turf replacement activity as a gradual market transformation activity. Next slide, please. One of the risks of launching headlong into a turf replacement activity as a drought response measure is what you see on the screen, sites that are lacking in sustainability features. You might be maximizing water savings in this particular example, but that is not an example of sustainability and would not be eligible for our rebate. Rather, our emphasis is on, next slide please, empowering participants to succeed so that at their own pace and within their own means they can diligently evaluate their sites, maximize the curb appeal and the environmental benefits of their projects. Next slide, please. I'll show you a couple of examples of what we've achieved in prior generations of our landscape upgrade incentives. If you click again, you'll see the final product. Go ahead. And so this is a residential example, and one more click. It's perfectly transferable to commercial landscape environments. Again, please. So you can be the judge whether hitting the mark in terms of the co-equal values of environmental friendliness and curb appeal. That's essential. Our philosophy is really that a landscape upgrade, a water-smart landscape, is an upgrade, not a compromise. Next slide, please. I also want to put into perspective, you've probably heard the headlines, or seen the headlines, that Southern California has invested hundreds of millions of dollars to replace turf in connection with the current drought conditions gripping the state. The latest figures from the Metropolitan Water District, which administered that effort, are that $340 million have already been paid out or are due to projects being finalized. The Water Authority, as the largest member agency to Metropolitan, on average contributes about 25 cents to every dollar that Metropolitan spends. So about $85 million of this investment came from our region. And so although compared to that level of investment, the regionally run programs by the Water Authority, which you can see on either side flanking this picture, although they appear small by comparison, they're very substantial and strategically important because they allow us to raise the bar and continually improve the effectiveness of our programs. So as you can see on the far right, the Sustainable Landscapes Program has about $500,000 to accomplish what we estimate will be 270 retrofit sites approximately. Next slide, please. Materials like soil, like compost or other soil amendments, compost tea and mulch, are essential to our mission to upgrade the function of our soils. And next slide, please. So we're going to now take a look at highlights of our Sustainable Landscape Guidelines. My intent with this segment is it's really kind of a teaser reel. I want to get you acquainted with some of the more salient points of our publication and invite you to review that more carefully at your leisure. So you can download a copy of the guide at watersmartsd.org. Next slide, please. So it begins with the watershed approach, and you can refer to the text, the description. I like to describe this as that every parcel in our urban environments like a cell in a living organism. So every parcel can contribute some of that regional horsepower, if you will, to address these challenging runoff issues and can be more efficient in its resource use so that we can progressively move away from the traditional landscapes to something that restores soil function and is more appropriate for our climate and region. Every parcel has a geographic location and is part of a landscape, of a watershed, but people seldom know what watershed they belong to. So step one is identifying what is your watershed, where are you located? Next slide, please. And along with that is a notion of understanding your local microclimate and other characteristics that make your region unique. In the case of San Diego County, it's canyon country. There's lots of hills and valleys, and development is quite spread out. So we're a vast region and cover multiple microclimates. So you can have identical properties, say one located in La Jolla, which is a coastal community, versus another located, say, in Ramona or another inland area. And these two identical properties are going to have very different water footprints just by virtue of their climate. Next slide, please. Our booklet is organized with a very deliberate how-to bent. We want to provide practical, actionable information, and it's chock full of diagrams and illustrations that are designed to break down these concepts and make them more accessible. Throughout the book, we'll use interactive prompts like the test it, the do it, and provide the reader pointers to where they can obtain additional resources and articulate very clearly what the relevant guidelines, typically these are citations of actual regulations, and I think we covered something in the neighborhood of over a dozen distinct regulations in this work. Next slide, please. So a cornerstone concept to the effectiveness of a sustainable landscape is restoring function to the soil. Highly compacted urban areas are akin to the brick on the left, and what we're aiming for is to enhance permeability, to add basically oxygen, water, and life to jumpstart these soils so that they can sustain long-term the beautiful landscapes that will adorn our homes and businesses, but more importantly that they'll be functional soldiers in this army of sites, if you will, battling for better water quality and improved environmental benefits. Next slide, please. Another key concept is, we're in a region that has prolonged dry periods on an average yearly cycle. There's a dry season and a rainy season, and so there's a first flush, if you will, that first major storm event that following an extended dry season conveys a lot of the pollutant buildup that has occurred in our urban areas. And unless we leverage our landscapes to intercept and naturally treat some of that flow, that will become runoff that enters and pollutes our waterways and ultimately contributes to beach closures. Next slide, please. So part of the approach to upgrading to a sustainable landscape involves identifying those ornamental turf areas which are no longer necessary. I want to be clear that there's a place and purpose for recreational turf. So this is not a turf abatement program altogether. This is a strategic program to identify those areas that can be converted where turf is only serving an ornamental infill purpose, and converting that area in a sustainable fashion. Now, turf removal itself, there's lots of different techniques. Our recommendations avoid the use of chemicals and promote actually composting the turf on site to minimize waste hauling and other inputs. Next slide, please. Climate appropriate plants, we discussed the Mediterranean plant palette. This visually powerfully conveys the spectrum of choices, and we live in a very mild climate that can accommodate a multitude of species. So in the low and very low water using plants, we find an abundance of colors and textures. There's room for an accent, but what we're getting away is from vast expanses of area covered in, as you see, turf, in favor of, you can see the swatches for the various Mediterranean plants that are so attractive and so well suited to our region. Next slide, please. the bottom line is that in redesigning our landscapes through measures like contouring, by creating these retention basins that we redirect our downspouts from our rain gutters into, these amended soils that have greater infiltration capacity, water can be used as a resource. On average, the San Diego region gets about 10 inches in coastal areas, 10 inches of rainfall. And the amount of water necessary to sustain turf, by comparison, is in the order of 50 inches for much of our service territory. And you can see, that the difference between these two numbers is supplemental irrigation water. So by converting over to a lower water use plant palette, we're reducing the demand, and by leveraging the rainwater as a resource, we're further reducing the amount of supplemental irrigation water that will be needed. In some cases, depending on the owner's taste and the plant palette they choose, it's conceivable that they could wean themselves off of supplemental water. But by and large, for a mainstream look, next slide please, we advise our participants to design and install state-of-the-art irrigation systems so that the supplemental water will be reliably there and efficiently applied. And that's where the Water Authority, as a WaterSense partner, is proud to feature the WaterSense labeling program in our publications as just one more of those great tools that we have to educate the consumer and contribute to that long-term market transformation. Next slide. So that concludes my overview of the Sustainable Landscapes Program and highlights of our new San Diego Sustainable Landscape Guidelines. Thank you for your attention.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Beth Livingston. I'm brand manager for EPA's WaterSense program. Today I will go over a few ways to promote water smart landscapes by using the public resources available to you from WaterSense. But first, I'd like to thank you, Carlos, for your great presentation. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay. Next slide. All right. It's best to start with the basics. Even if many homes in your area do not have irrigation systems, or if your area is not impacted by drought, there are a number of simple steps you can encourage homeowners to take to save water outdoors this spring and this summer. Promote the use of a water-smart landscape design, which incorporate water-saving elements and region-specific plans to help conserve water use outdoors. You heard what Carlos was mentioning that they're doing in San Diego. Use this handy resource, which features real photos submitted by the winners of our Landscape Photo Challenge in 2013. You can see the image of the brochure up there, the Water Smart Landscapes, and it's the website. It's noted below if you'd like to click on that. Use the following tips to help your homeowners design water smart landscapes. Select the right plants for your area. Once native and low water using plants are established, they require very little water in addition to rainfall. Group plants according to their water needs. This reduces water use by allowing residents to water to each group's needs. Maintain a healthy soil so the landscape effectively cycles nutrients, minimizes runoff, and retains water. Limit turf areas, since turf grass receives the highest percentage of irrigation water in traditional landscaping, and use mulch to help reduce evaporation, inhibit weed growth, moderate soil temperature, and prevent erosion. Minimize slopes to reduce potential for erosion and runoff. Install plantings with deeper root zones such as native ground covers and shrubs to provide stabilization and prevent erosions. San Diego talked about how they are taking a watershed approach to landscapes. So think about how your customers can manage their landscape and help the watershed at the same time by reducing runoff and helping water to infiltrate into the ground. Our Green Infrastructure Program has lots of resources for that as well. WaterSense website has resources that can help your customers plan and design water smart landscapes. For instance, the What to Plant, What tool, and the link featured at the bottom of the screen is a resource you can use to gather and send information on your state's native and water-efficient plants to homeowners in your area. Simply use the drop-down menu, find your state, and choose from the list of region-specific planting guides. If you're looking for a general guide to water smart landscaping for your customers, WaterSense has developed a Water Smart Landscapes guide that provides the basic principles of water-efficient landscape design methods. We also have an interactive water budget tool that homeowners and landscape designers in your area can use to determine if their landscapes meet the water efficiency criteria established by the WaterSense new home specification. Users receive a pass-fail based on inputting their local climate, plant selection, irrigation methods, and size of landscape. And if you're looking for examples of WaterSmart's landscape, you can check out our landscape photo gallery, which includes photos from participants in our 2013 and 2015 photo challenges. We also have albums on our Facebook page of the photographs from the 2015 Water Saving Yard Challenge, showcasing beautiful water-efficient yard transformations, including the before and after shots shown here in the lower right. All right, even landscapes designed to minimize the need for supplemental water can still have an irrigation system. In a perfect world, irrigation system owners will be able to understand the needs of their landscape and irrigation systems. The fact of the matter is that many homeowners of irrigation systems don't know how to check or repair their systems. They're intimidating and not simple, and consumers have no idea how much an inefficient system actually wastes water. WaterSense labeled certification programs for landscape irrigation professionals, such as programs offered by the Irrigation Association, the California Landscape Contractor Association, or CLCA, the Qualified Water Efficient Landscape Program, QUEL, which sponsors 16 programs, and others. These WaterSense label programs stress water efficiency in addition to competence with irrigation systems. And thank you to the irrigation program professionals that we saw on earlier today that are gone through one of our label programs. The irrigation professionals that have been certified by these WaterSense label programs are trained in how to effectively and efficiently audit, design, install, and maintain irrigation systems. We have a new directory on our website that can help consumers find professionals who have been certified by one of these label programs. In addition to using a WaterSmart professional, consumers can also look for smarter technology by looking for the WaterSense label. Many people have clock timers that don't respond to the needs of the landscape, and most people don't know when they should water. WaterSense labeled weather-based irrigation controllers adjust watering schedules based on local weather conditions and can better match plants' water needs. Many water utilities provide rebates to help consumers buy smart controllers. WaterSense is looking to expand its labeled outdoor products and is actively working on specifications for soil moisture sensor-based controllers and sprinklers. Experts estimate that as much as 50% of the water we use outdoors is being wasted due to evaporation, wind, or runoff caused by inefficient irrigation methods and systems. By encouraging people to properly maintain their irrigation systems or have them inspected and repaired by a certified irrigation professional, we could reduce outdoor water waste in communities. Before people begin outdoor watering this spring, WaterSense likes to encourage them to do a little sprinkler spruce up to ensure their systems are operating efficiently. Although this campaign can be used at any time during the year, EPA actively promotes the sprinkler spruce up during the first weekend in May. So keep an eye out for information and useful resources on social media and our partner websites to be a part of the campaign. When promoting sprinkler spruce up, you can make it easier for consumers with these 4 simple steps. 1, inspect. 2, connect. 3, direct. And lastly, 4, select. Inspect systems for clogged, broken, or missing sprinkler heads. Examine the points where the sprinkler heads connect to pipes and hoses. Direct water away from the driveway, house, or sidewalk to apply water only to the landscape. And select a proper irrigation system scheduled with the seasons. Outdoor water use is a big issue, so we are promoting smarter outdoor use all spring and summer through our Twitter and Facebook channels and other outreach efforts with our partners. WaterSense will promote the Right Plant, Right Place campaign in April, again sprinkler spruce up in May, and using water wisely outdoors, whether in drought or not, in July and August. So thank you for your time. Next up, we have Peter Mayer from the Alliance for Water Efficiency. Peter?
Yes, hi, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for sticking around. My name is Peter Mayer and I'm a technical advisor with the Alliance for Water Efficiency and manager of the Outdoor Water Savings Research Initiative that the Alliance is launching. I wanted to just tell you about a few resources that are available related to some of the topics. We really heard an excellent presentation today from Carlos, outlining a spectacular program that they are implementing in the San Diego area. We recently completed some research through the Alliance that took a look at the water savings that have been identified from a wide variety of different landscape measures, including a program similar to the one that Carlos described. And that research is available now and can be downloaded from the Alliance for Water Efficiency. But part of that project was to identify gaps where we don't really have as much knowledge and information about potential water savings. And so as a part of the phase 2 part of the Alliance project, we've actually established 2 requests for proposals, or RFPs, identifying 2 different studies that we're hoping to implement over the next couple of years. One is a study of landscape transformation, so it would be looking at programs similar to the program that Carlos described in San Diego, where there has been an effort to really change the water requirement of the landscape itself, and to see if we can figure out some of the different key elements that incent water and create water savings from those programs in particular. So that project, we're hoping will have $175,000 to $250,000 budget so that it can really cover multiple jurisdictions, different climate zones, and not just be a limited study. And then we're also planning to do a study of drought restrictions and the impact of differing drought restrictions, and also to conduct that in a way that evaluates impacts in different regions. So not just in one particular state. Hopefully we'll be able to do some work in multiple regions and look at differences in response levels. So I want to invite folks to come and learn more about these different studies. If you're interested in participating in the study, or if you might have some money to contribute to the research, that would be most welcome, and you can contact the Alliance for Water Efficiency, myself, or Mary Ann Dickinson to do that. We are also, there's a number of other possible research projects that are being thought about, and this is the Alliance is considering this a long-term initiative, and so we hope that you'll join us and so can learn more about water savings from these types of outdoor projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. This is Kimberly Velasquez with the WaterSense program. And I'd like to thank Carlos Michelin again with the San Diego County Water Authority for the great presentation today. And we have a few minutes for questions, so I'd like to ask if there are any questions for Carlos at this time. Please type them in the question box and we'll read them aloud.
So we have a question that came in. Are landscape architects involved with this effort? I think that one's for you, Carlos.
Okay, let me repeat the question, make sure I understand it. Are landscape architects involved? What was the balance of the question?
With this effort.
With this effort. I'll highlight a few ways in which landscape architects and other landscape design professionals are involved in the effort. The Technical Advisory Committee that provided oversight to the development of the guidelines had landscape architects as members of that. Within the education and training activities, there's, by design, we're trying to influence a cross-section of landscape professionals. Just to, by way of background, typically landscape architects in our area don't necessarily take on residential small-scale jobs. predominantly. There are other design professionals, landscape designers, irrigation designers, and so forth. But in the Water Authority's efforts, for example, on education, our WaterSmart program, we've outsourced that administration and implementation of that program to a landscape architecture firm. And predominantly the design coaching is done by licensed landscape architects alongside other design professionals. And I think it's important to underscore not all sites are equal, not all sites face the same challenges, and it's important to match the right resources for the right job. And in landscape design professionals, you find people who are very well prepared and very knowledgeable about these concepts we've outlined today. So I hope that gives a little insight into how they're involved in the program.
All right, and we had another question. Who are the qualified professionals who are in this title? Landscape designers, LS architects, planners?
Okay, I think it's quickest to address that by pointing to the industry associations, and people can research them further. Just kind of a cross-section of relevant industry associations: the American Society of Landscape Architects, the APLD is Association of Professional Landscape Designers. Sorry, it took me a little while to get that. CLCA is the California Landscape Contractors Association, where C27 licensed contractors are allowed by law to design the projects that they work on. And through the Irrigation Association, there's a host of credentials available for irrigation design and management. So I encourage you to research those associations and the details associated with their respective credentials.
All right, and so someone commented, so far I've only heard about Mediterranean plants. To be sustainable and wildlife habitat friendly, by any definitions, don't you need to use native plants as well?
So the question had to do with a more prominent featuring of native plants. I think I did cover that in my presentation, emphasizing, for example, when it comes to the habitat restoration benefits that are incidental to this sustainable landscaping approach in urban areas. When you do choose native plants, naturally that has a benefit to the native fauna, but there are other analogous plants that are comps, if you will, comparable species that functionally behave similarly. So we do encourage natives. In fact, it's important to screen the plants that you specify in a plant palette. In California, we have a service. CALIPSI is a short name of it. California Invasive Plant Council maintains a database to identify plants that are either proven to be invasive or suspected of being invasive in certain regions. And we advise our participants to screen out any invasive plants because that's just another way we help to protect habitat for native species.
Okay, and another one for you, Carlos. What was the water savings between the turf landscapes and the sustainable landscapes using the examples shown?
So what is the water savings associated with turf conversions to different standards? Well, I think I would point you to the latest information I'm aware of is a study by the Metropolitan Water District. I think they pegged the potential savings in the order of about 40 gallons per square foot annually. I think just stepping back more broadly, these methods easily can deliver about a 50% reduction when properly executed relative to a conventional lawn-intensive landscape. And I want to qualify that as part of the definition of a conventional landscape. There's some gross inefficiencies there. So there's a lot of slack in that system. It's very possible to substantially reduce water use on a conventional landscape just through proper irrigation techniques. So the full-scale conversion we're contemplating through the Sustainable Landscapes approach, again, I think has the potential to exceed 50% savings. I think our nominal target in the context of our grant award is 30%, so that's the number we're targeting.
Great. Did you have any problems with perceived government or private business conflicts providing design guidance? If so, how did you overcome this?
Okay, and let me try to break down the question a little bit. So in the context of delivering design assistance, what are some of the risks or problems associated with that? You know, there's potentially liability if you don't take the necessary safeguards to frame the participants' responsibilities correctly. I stressed during the education and technical assistance segment of my talk that we do employ design professionals to dispense design coaching services. And I carefully described that we don't design the sites for the participants. Rather, that is their responsibility. The participants benefit through the design coaching, whether it's delivered on site, as you saw one example, or whether it's embedded in the classroom sessions. They benefit from the expertise and troubleshooting their own designs. And so you know, that frames the manner in which we've described and contained the exposure of that service. Ultimately, the professionals who are delivering any advice are responsible also for their own recommendations. So we put it squarely on the participant. This is an entirely voluntary program, and these resources are principally aimed at educational purposes.
Great, and I think we have time for one more question. The rest of the questions we'll answer following the webinar. So Carlos, you mentioned the place and purpose for recreational turf. Have there been any efforts from local water districts in your area to support conversion of these recreational areas to more drought-tolerant, warm season grasses like Bermuda or buffalo grass?
If I understand the gist of the question, you know, I want to differentiate the scope of the Sustainable Landscapes Program in its present format. We're targeting residential front yards principally, where turf is present as an ornamental feature primarily. So by default, we've already narrowed our target participants. I think the question is addressing more broadly, if I'm understanding it correctly, you know, in other urban areas, say parks and so forth, are there efforts to convert away from turf? And, you know, that's kind of a site-specific issue. I know that I'd like my kids to play soccer on turf for the sake of their knees, live, living turf, as opposed to synthetic turf. Now, that's a personal preference because there's, you know, knee issues, for example, or other risks associated with that playing surface. But there's an important consideration for the playability of these fields. You know, recreational or passive recreation, you know, picnic areas in parks. I don't think there's a cookie-cutter approach to this. I defer to the design professionals and the facility staff at these locations. Certainly, we encourage everybody, wherever turf is being only used as an infill material, as an ornamental feature, there are superior alternatives. But where there's either active or passive recreation involved, I think we've already stated kind of our strategy. We're primarily interested in encouraging the public to reconsider, reevaluate ornamental turf areas, not the recreational ones.
All right, thank you very much, Carlos. This is Kimberlyn again. Thank you for all the very helpful information and insight, and for your time and presenting with us today. Before we close, we'd just like to ask one more additional poll question, and that is, what webinar topics are you interested in for the future? It looks like watershed-friendly landscapes was our most popular topic, so we'll be looking into having a webinar on that topic. And our next webinar in the series will be at the end of May on relationship building between irrigation professionals and utilities. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and thank you to Peter Mayer and Carlos again, and also Beth here at WaterSense for presenting today. We really appreciate all your insight and expertise, and we look forward to having you all on our next webinar at the end of May.